We listen in as grandfather reads to his grandson, a story of sword fights, torture, and true love. We meet a pirate, a giant, a master swordsman, an evil prince, and even a few miracle workers as our heroes risk their lives for friendship, for revenge, and for the Princess Bride.
Welcome to Movie Friends. My name is Seth.
And I'm Michelle.
Today we're talking about The Princess Bride from 1987. Directed by Rob Reiner. Written by William Goldman. Cinematography by Adrian Biddle. Composed by Mark Knopfler. Edited by Robert Layton. Costume design by Phyllis Dalton. Starring Carrie Elways, Robin Wright, Mandy Patinkin, Chris Sarandon, Andre Roussimoff, and Christopher Guest. Michelle, how are you?
What's going on, Seth?
Hey, you're back.
What do you mean? I never left.
Well, we had put out that little episode at the first of the month.
I mean, I think you should tell the truth that you actually used an AI version of me, and that wasn't me on the episode.
Yep, that's right. I've been dabbling in AI creative things. I don't even know what you call it, but
Yeah, good job.
yes. So that was not really Michelle on that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone rest assured, Michelle will be here until she dies.
Sorry, Sean Shank, you opportunist. I see you.
Oh my God.
I'm calling you out, buddy. We didn't even flinch that Michelle was leaving. She's like, hey, I'll take your spot.
Hey, there's a lot of people who would kill to be on this show.
I know. I mean, you are such a great co-host.
Well, I was thinking more like they would kill me and then take over my spot.
No way. No way.
I was just thinking that'd be like the most pathetic true crime story. Like someone strangles one of us so that they can be the co-host of the show.
Yeah. Ooh.
Anyway, that happened. What else? What else is going on?
What else is going on?
What do you got cooking?
I don't know. Oh, well, I'm celebrating my birthday this weekend.
Oh, hooray.
Yes, hooray. It was in March, but it didn't really happen, I feel. So
sure.
Saturday's my birthday.
Right. All over again.
That's right.
Doing anything cool?
We're going to the city. We're going to see the Office parody musical.
Oh, yes.
I know. Aunt found it, so I'm excited. We're going to eat dinner and I'm going to get some jewelry. I'm excited.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Are you a jewelry? Are you a jewelry hound?
What a weird...
I know. That's why I had to stop and re-say it because I was laughing through it.
A jewelry hound? Is that a proper term?
I don't know.
No. No, not really. But there is a particular jeweler I love named Catbird in New York City. And I have a couple of their pieces. And so I'm going to get a bracelet from them. What are you laughing at? What's with the face, Seth? I cannot take you seriously tonight.
The artist that you like is called Catbird?
The jewelry, the shop is called Catbird. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it like you walk up to a park bench
I've actually
and find some trash and you say, Catbird made this for me?
Yep. Exactly like that.
That's what I thought.
What about you? What's going on in Sethland?
Not a lot. Not a lot. G. Marie is heading out to the eclipse.
Yeah, April 8th, baby.
So it'll be like when this episode comes out, actually.
Yeah.
It's Eclipse Day.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I know you love your moon seeds. Does that the eclipse? Is that like a special?
You know what,
do you have to on seeds that day?
That's like a really, really great question. And to be honest with you, I fell off the seed cycling. I feel like I have to whisper, like, getting close, guys. Like, I gotta get back into it.
You don't want your seed cycle fans to hear.
I know. And the seeds like attack me and stuff. No, I'm working on getting back into it.
Okay. Well, there's never been a better time than the eclipse.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have no interest in heavenly bodies, you know?
Yeah.
That's what you call planets, right? Stars and stuff?
I don't know. Is that what you call it?
I thought. I hope that's what you call
I'm
it.
not that educated, Seth. So
Oh, well,
when you
neither am
throw
I.
when you throw around SAT words, get out of here.
Speaking of getting out of here, we got some emails.
Yes. Email.
So it's more like getting into here. This person's writing in about our episode on Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones. And they say, special episodes of Seth and Michelle top 100 with a bunch of exclamation points,
Stay tuned.
which I know you're excited about.
You know it, baby. You
I have
know
a
it.
top 150. I couldn't stop at 100. Like that was too, everyone's like, make your top 100, make your top 100. I'm like, no, I will not. So I went up to 150 and that felt very comfortable, that number.
Can I give you guys an update? Because
Yeah.
I said if someone was to email in or ask that I would do it. And I just want to
Yeah.
let the people know that I have not forgotten about this. I'm having trouble. I'm only up to 16 films on my list.
Got it.
So this is a little bit of an obstacle for me.
Got it. Maybe 25 is a good one for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'll stop when it feels right.
Limiting down to number. People are always like, who's your director, Mount Rushmore of directors?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
I'm not going to limit four directors.
Mm-hmm.
That's not enough. Like that's crazy talk, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, the email continues. The monkey salute is one of the funniest things in a mainstream movie. Maybe the white cat is a white supremacist, and then a little shrug. I don't know.
Oh man, a hidden message? Ooh.
This film drags, and it's possibly the most overrated action film. Karen Allen is awesome. Best human role in the movie. P.S. Angry George Costanza equals t-shirt idea. P.S.S. I need DeVito in this movie. P.S.S.S. Lizard Talk equals new segment. And P.S.S.S.S. This is a meh 2.5 stars for me.
Wow. Thank you, Ben. I'm assuming this is Ben.
It's Ben.
I appreciate hearing his insight on that.
Next email is in response to our high and low episode. This person's kind of catching up on some movies, so we're heading back. It says, Dear movie friends, when I was young, me and my parents lived next to a postal inspector. The postal inspector had a company car. That company car was a symbol to my father of everything my father didn't have and didn't achieve in his own life. It was a symbol of success, security, and pride. My father was envious and angry about that company car and would bring it up sometimes in his low moments. This is how I could understand the kidnapper's mindset in High and Low. He woke up to a view of Gondo's house high on the hill every day of his life. I know my father would look over at my neighbor's car every day, too. Your friend, Sean.
Wow. I have no words.
Intense.
Intense. Thanks
So
for
that
sharing,
made
Sean.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That makes a lot of sense. I know when we were talking about high and low, we're talking about kind of I was saying how like random the crime kind of is, and how to me that kind of makes the whole movie because it's like, I mean, spoilers for high and low here, but I appreciate what Sean's saying because this dude woke up every day and had to look at Gondo's house.
Right. What he wanted and couldn't have, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, guys.
Very good stuff. If you guys want to be like Ben and Sean and send us good stuff, send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Hey, are you listening to our old episodes? Somebody is. We see the downloads, man.
Say hello.
Yeah, let us know. So before we get into the episode, we're going to take a guess at each other's rating for this movie. And we haven't really talked about this movie. So I don't really know what to think about what you think about this. So I'm just gonna go with my gut here.
Okay, me too.
Okay, it's there, it's done. I'm ready.
It's in red ink over here.
Oh my.
I know.
Hey there, welcome to Rewind Rewatch. I am the oldest sibling, Andreen.
And I'm her brother, Joel. And we are siblings that decided to make a podcast about the thing that we love, 90s movies.
Yes. I mean, we love everything 90s anyway, but for this podcast, what we want to do is basically look at 90s movies and then discuss whether or not they've aged well, based on today's standards.
So we'll think about the themes, some of our favorite quotes, and at the end, we will rate these movies on a scale from 1 to 5, rewinds, based on how likely it is for us to rewatch them again.
How do you think we'll rate your favorite 90s movies? You got to listen in to find out.
So normally, if one of us hasn't seen the film, we would record our pre-watch thoughts, but both of us have seen this before. Michelle, when was the last time you saw Princess Bride, do you think, before this viewing?
Probably like 8 years ago, maybe.
Okay. All
Less
right.
than 10. Less than 10, but more than 5.
Did you have fond memories?
Yeah.
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 Was this something that you watched like growing up?
No, but I did see
no.
it when I was a kid because I always remembered Fred Savage.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that's the part that always, stood out to me because then he went on to do The Wonder Years.
Of
And
course.
I was just like such a fan of Fred and Ben, of course, because then Boy Meets World.
The Wonder Years was such a special show growing
know.
up.
Yeah.
It was like, I think because it was about a kid, it felt like the first piece of media that I watched that was like serious.
Right. From a kid's point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And rewatching it as an adult, I'm like, this show is way goofier than I remembered. Like there's a lot more like comedic storylines.
Yeah. I mean, I just recently rewatched it. It's pretty deep though. I mean, the first episode, not to go down a Wonder Years wormhole, and I think I've discussed it on the podcast, like Winnie Cooper's brother dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's deep. It's a heavy show.
Very
but
deep.
Anyway, I always remembered Fred being the kid, and that's like what stood out to me when I was younger. What about you? You chose this movie.
I watch this movie probably twice a year.
Wow.
Which is a lot for me because I do not rewatch movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you grow up watching it twice a year, or this is a recent thing?
When this came to DVD, we probably watched this once a month in our house. Yeah. And I remember watching this as a kid because there were parts of this movie that freaked me out.
Ooh, okay. Excited to
Namely,
get into that.
like stabbing a giant rat to death as it
rodents
squeals.
of an unusual size, sure.
And then the machine going to 50. That part always was like, oh my God, that's like the most evil thing I can think of.
Yeah.
As a child. And yeah, just like having this be the main image of like Andre the Giant in my head.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
So I have several questions for you here. I'm very excited to talk about this movie. In case you can't tell.
Yeah, the level of your voice is like real selling it. And your facial expression right there. I'm really excited to talk to you about this movie.
So the first thing I want to ask you about is the framing of this story, which is Peter Falk reading to young Fred Savage.
You mean, like, what do you mean by that? Can you expand?
Well, just how do you feel about that?
I like it.
The cutting in and out during the story.
I wish we had more. I wish we had more cutting in and out.
Wow, really?
Particularly, I love when we cut in, when she, not to jump, but here's an example of when Princess Buttercup is in the water and she's about to get attacked by the eels. We cut back to grandson and grandfather, and he's like, she doesn't get eaten, right? But when we go back to that scene, it's almost like her mouth is overlaid with him talking, which I loved, and I wanted more of that.
Yeah.
But I do like this storytelling device.
How do you feel about Peter Falk, just kind of like in your brain?
I mean, I didn't really think too much about him. I got to be honest with you. To me, it's just like, hey, it's grandfather in this movie.
Were you like ever into Columbo? Do you remember him as Columbo?
I know he's from Columbo. Definitely watched it a little bit with my parents, but again, not enough to be like so fixated on that.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Growing up, I knew him from this. I knew him from Columbo.
Uh-huh.
And then I started watching like the serious movies that he was in.
Yeah.
Mikey and Nikki, Woman Under the Influence. And it's so different. Like he's so crazy different, and he's like scary and intense, like very raw acting. And like it's like the type of stuff where you watch it and you're like, dang man, that's acting right there. And it was such a weird adjustment to make in my mind. And
Mm.
it may have contributed to like why I like those movies more, because I was like, this guy Peter Falk, this guy, he's a real actor. He's not just a grandfather from Princess Bride. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious if anyone's listening, if you had the same kind of experience, or if you're older and you were more familiar with Peter Falk in the 70s as like a crazy, super intense guy. And then he kind of segued into some of this easy stuff. And then also as the dad from Corky Romano, which I don't know if you've seen Corky Romano.
I have not thought about Corky Romano since, and it's been a long time.
No one has thought about Corky Romano.
Whoa.
He's Pops. He's the gangster dad who's like dying in Corky Romano.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that just sent me on like a mini tornado journey.
I would love to do Corky Romano on this show one day.
I mean, we can do it.
But that's another time.
Add it to the list.
That's a story for another time.
As you wish.
Yeah. Yeah, and while we're on the grandfather and the son, while we're on the grandfather and the grandson, that ending comes as you wish. How are you feeling?
I mean, it ties back to he's just read this whole story to him, whether he's reading from the book or he's making it up. Because
that's a question, right?
The book is large, but the movie is like an hour and whatever, right? So if you're telling a story to a kid, also it doesn't look like it's large print, whatever. I think we're just getting into details that doesn't matter. But yeah, he's just repeating a line back to his grandson. I think it's cute. Do you not like it?
Oh, I love it. I cry.
You cry?
Of course.
Maybe because you have kids. No?
I don't know. It's just very touching because like you go on this whole journey in the story, but you go on this like mini journey with Peter Falk and Fred Savage, which is like, I hate when my grandfather shows up because he pinches my cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's, it feels like they don't have much of a relationship before this day.
Yeah. I also was wondering, okay, grandson, which that's his name.
Yes, grandson.
Is sick.
Uh-huh.
Right? Is this Christmas break? Because in his bedroom, on his closet door, he has a paper. It looks like a schoolcraft Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? Because that's all I could see.
I did. Oh, I did notice it. Yeah.
And so
because I thought about all the crap that my kid would bring home from school that they make. And it's like, what do I do with this?
Right. And it brought me back to when I was a kid and you would like hang up your art project. And I'm like, does grandpa only come around on the holidays during winter break, but mom has to go to work, but he's sick? I don't know. That I built this whole backstory up.
That's great. Yeah, I've never thought too much about the backstory beyond they're not as warm with each other in the beginning as they are at the end.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So it really feels like the two of them together are going on this like relationship building journey, and they're kind of learning about each other. And I might be just thinking too far into it, like you said, but yeah, no, I love it. I love it when he says "as you wish," because what it means in the book is "I love you," and it's just what you say when you're like doing something for someone. And like that's what he's doing here. He's like spending the day with him because he's sick, and he's reading to him. And in the end, it's really just, hey, this is my way of saying I love you.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I mean, this whole movie's about love.
It's true.
That's the true meaning here.
Did you stick around for the song in the credits?
No. I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't?
No, Seth. These are things, You need to tell me. I'm never going to like stick around after a movie because if you can imagine, I'm like, I'm out. Right? We're done. Let me go on and watch like Curb Your Enthusiasm or something, right?
Yeah.
So,
There's a
yeah.
great, I'll send you the link to the song.
Okay,
There's
please
a
do.
great like 80s. Remember in like the 80s and the 90s when you'd have a man with a really deep voice singing a ballad,
Yeah.
you know, and it was just like, oh, yeah. Better than that, but you know.
Yes.
So this one, yeah, it's a great, I'll send it to you.
Okay, good.
All right, so into the story. There's so many great characters in this. Like, I want to ask you just about each one, and maybe that's just how we'll go through this one. I don't know.
Whatever you like.
All right. How do you feel about Buttercup?
She's great. I think she plays Robin Wright.
Yes.
When it's crazy to think about where she went to House of Cards.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the same actress. She's
Yeah.
so beautiful without trying, which I love.
Yeah.
And I love her relationship with the farm boy, stable boy. But it didn't like read to me that she was kind of like stuck up in her ways or of higher society than him. Is it to me? What did you think of her? Like, did you get that read?
No, like, I don't get that she's part of higher society. Like,
Right.
this is like she lives on a farm. Like, she is a commoner,
commoner.
which Humperdinck
Humperdinck
says about her later, right?
Yeah.
But she's definitely looking down on Wesley for whatever reason.
Yeah. I know it doesn't matter, but I wanted to know, like, where did he come from?
How long was he there?
Yeah.
You know, kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're blowing past.
I know.
A whole lot of time. I love her. She's great. I love her accent. She's clearly not British, but she's doing a pretty good British accent. She was 20 here.
Wow.
Which is like nuts to think about, like a 20-year-old. I think a valid criticism of this movie is that she's very much just the damsel in distress throughout a lot of this movie.
The prize.
Yeah. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, I think that's the way the story is told and portrayed of like, there's bad guys, there's a princess, this is a fairy tale, there's castles, right? There's monsters, there's a quest.
Mm-hmm.
But she had so much more to her. I mean, and it develops as it goes on because she does feel her true love, but then she also says like, I'm going to commit suicide. Like I'm not going to marry you. I'm just going to end my life.
Yeah.
So she was fearless in that way.
Yeah. I think that she's great with words.
Yeah.
You know, like when she's giving the man in black, when she doesn't know is Wesley.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like really ripping him apart through a lot of their scenes together. And then she's also giving it back to Humperdinck a lot. Mm-hmm. And when she really, you know, feels that Wesley is dead and there's, you know, she does decide to kill herself. And it's like, yeah, I mean, she's not just like fainting on a couch, you know, like, oh my God, somebody save me.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. She's too trusting. Like she makes that wager, you know, oh, I'll go with you if you promise not to hurt him.
Well, I don't know. I feel like when you love someone so much, you're going to do anything and try.
Sure.
That's how I read that. Not that she's too
what
trusting.
Can you do?
Right. It's kind of like a temporary hold, a Band-Aid until I figure out what I'm going to do next.
Right. Yeah. They got the crossbows on them.
That's right.
Carrie Elways, who is British, as Wesley, and Dread Pirate Roberts. How'd you feel about him?
I had a Halloween party once, and 3 people showed up as Dread Pirate Roberts, and we had like 2 Princess Buttercups. So to say he made a mark on my friend group is putting it lightly.
And nobody knew?
Nobody knew. And you know my friend group.
That's crazy.
I know. And like all in the same year.
Wow. Okay. 3 Dread Pirate Roberts, which makes sense with the Dread Pirate Roberts story, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dread Pirate Roberts is really hard to say. Is this hard for you or just me?
It's very hard for me to say too. Yeah, the Dread Pirate.
I want to say Dread Dead Pirate Roberts. Like if I say Tread Dead Red.
Yeah. The Dread Pirate Roberts. It's the
It's
R
hard
in
to
pirate.
say. That's right.
That, like, it brings your
Yes.
palate down and then you have to open back up for Roberts.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. There are certain words that I really do stumble over, and this is one of them. This is a name I truly have to think about when I'm saying it.
Well, let's just call him Wesley then, because that's
okay. Wesley or Man in Black or whatever.
Yeah,
they titled him. He was great. And I'm curious and maybe you don't remember it because you've watched this so many times, but did you pick up on the fact that he was Wesley? Because as far as we're concerned, Wesley goes off. He has to leave Princess Buttercup because he has to go and make a living so they can get married, right?
Yeah.
He is killed. So we hear from Dread Pirate Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
And then he appears. And, we have that whole, he goes through the 3 men who has Buttercup. Okay. Did you realize that was Wesley the whole time?
I think so, but it's really hard to remember.
I know, see it, right.
Being a kid and being like, oh my gosh. William Goldman, who wrote the book and who wrote the screenplay, said he was like, that was a reveal that worked much better in the book because
well, sure.
because you can't see the 2 characters.
Yeah.
I will say, like, in the very beginning, I felt like they did such a good job of making Cary Elwes look super young.
Yes.
Like when he's the farm boy and he's just like looking into the camera, like, I mean, better than that, then,
I wish you all could have saw that. That was something. Actually, it kind of reminded me of a cat getting some sun.
Yeah, and that's what he looks like,
Yeah.
He's basking in Buttercup.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Buttercup, what is that? Come on.
How do we have Buttercup and then Wesley? You know what I'm saying? Like, we have all these different names. Vizzini and Inigo, and then we have...
Humperdinck.
But even so, but then Buttercup?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a name you give a pet. I guess she's a pet.
It's a bit of a pet name, Buttercup. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe they had Buttercup flowers on the farm, and that's what they named her after.
What's a nickname for Buttercup? Is it Butter? Is it Cups?
Butter.
Is it Butts?
Buttcup.
Butters? It's just, you can't really...
Butters.
What's a nickname for Buttercup? Cuppy. Nothing is good. You cannot make Buttercup into a nickname unless you were a pet, because then you can call your pet Butters or Bee or Butts or Butt Cups. But as a woman, I don't know if I would want to be called Butt Cups. You know what I'm saying? What's up, Butt Cups?
Tell Anthony to try it for a few days.
You mean calling me Butt Cups?
Yeah, see how it feels. Take it for a spin.
No, I already know how it feels. I don't want to be called Butt Cups.
Okay, all right. I feel like probably Butters, right? That feels the most.
You just think of South Park.
I know. Well, Wesley wouldn't have been thinking of South Park.
That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he's great. I think Cary Elwes is great. This movie has the unfortunate reality of like all of the side characters are perhaps more interesting than like our 2 main leads. And that's not saying anything bad about the 2 main leads because they're very interesting in their own way. It's just this movie's filled with like what an ensemble flick.
Yeah. And don't you think when you watch a story like that's a fairy tale, the side characters are always the better ones anyway?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So it kind of fits.
Yeah. In the duel scene, the first duel.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. It's absolutely great. Rob Reiner, I just listened to the commentary track with them today. He was like, I don't like saying that anything I've done is the best, version of something. He's like, but I can tell you, I have watched every fencing scene from every movie ever made, and our fencing scene is the best fencing scene.
It's great. It's probably my favorite scene in the movie. Well, one of them for sure. It's up
Yeah,
there.
one of them. It's great, and it's not just fencing. Like they're
No.
running and jumping and flipping and talking and
Yeah.
conversing.
Yeah.
But they did. Mandy Patinkin and Carrie Elwes did all of it. There were no stunt doubles, except for the flipping part. But they filmed the duel scene later on in the movie, and so anytime they were on set and they weren't filming, the two of them were just practicing over and over and over and over again because they both had to learn how to do it left-handed and right-handed, which is nuts.
That's insane. It's insane. It's this beautiful dance that they do together.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
I would love for like a fencing expert to weigh in and be like, no, it actually kind of sucks. You know, like, like to see, because to us as lay people, as non-fencing lay people, you watch it and you're just like, oh my God, like this is pretty great.
And you're also just caught up in the charm of it.
Yes.
And how they just both love the craft and they have so much respect for one another. And they're like, you're going to have to die, but that was a good way you just did it. It's a shame we have to do it this way.
Right. I love Wesley getting tortured. I love Wesley coming back to life. And his final speech to Humperdinck, where he's basically just like intimidating him without even getting up.
Because he's the brains.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got the mind.
I think he's great. And I'm very curious, and I'm not suggesting any type of prequel movie or anything like that, but I'm very curious. Like Wesley says, like, I've killed a lot of people, and he is the Dread Pirate Roberts. Like, what was that time period like?
Yeah. We could have had a little side quest.
Is he actually like out and about, like killing people and pillaging and you know, and then one day he's like, uh-oh, Buttercup got engaged. I better go home now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's just what you do. Right?
Like, how long did he have the power to return to Buttercup and like didn't? You know what I mean?
Well, sure. I mean, I thought about that because 5 years went by and then she has to go off and get married, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, what was happening in between?
Yeah. Like we know for a period he was under the old Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yes.
Whose name was like
Ryan.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
So for a while, you know, he's like a slave on his ship. Okay, he can't get back to Buttercup. But once he becomes the Dread Pirate Roberts.
He's like the new Santa. He put on the suit.
The Dread Pirate Roberts Claus, starring Tim Allen.
There you go. There's your prequel.
Yeah. So it's like,
whatever.
okay, so it's like, you know, day one. All right, crew, we're heading back home. I got to go grab, you know, my true love. Is that what happened? Or is that not what happened? Like, and if not, why?
Like, why didn't you come back sooner?
Is being a pirate just like that awesome that he was like,
I mean,
Buttercup can wait?
He does try to sell it a couple of times. Like, hey, you could try piracy.
Right.
So,
yeah, he's having the time of his life.
I mean, listen, if I was a pirate or if I was someone who was very skilled with my wit and a sword, I'd want to be a pirate.
I just don't like the water. I think that's my main.
Oh, I love the water. So
yeah,
but I don't like smells. So that'd be a problem.
It is smelly out on the ocean.
Well, it's just the people you're with, you know?
Well, that too, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you bathe on a boat?
Well, back then, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do they have like barrels of saved water? Or maybe there was no bathing. That's what I'm saying. And it's like stolen perfume and oils, and that's how you kept yourself clean. Or you just didn't care. Cleanliness wasn't a thing.
Be like, we need to go knock off some perfumers, by the way, in the next town.
They probably stole it.
Yeah, you'd bring water to drink because you can't drink ocean water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Did you ever watch the Mimi? Did you ever watch the Mimi with Ben Affleck?
The
and
what?
It like was the Mimi. Was that a thing you had to do in school? Okay. When I was in fifth,
The Mimi with Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck was a kid. He was in a movie called The Mimi, and The Mimi was shot in Port Jeff Harbor.
No. You tell me things about my own
I know.
hometown. I
So
never
we
heard
went
of.
and we saw the boat. Anyway, I'm pretty sure in that movie they like take ocean water and then they remove the salt so you can use it. Or is that rainwater?
Probably rainwater.
Rainwater.
Because I think the great mystery of life still is that we can't drink the ocean water, which I'm always like,
Is that the
why
great
haven't we
mystery
just-
of life?
oh yeah, if we could drink,
Oh, true.
all right. I'm about to sound like the biggest idiot on planet Earth right now, but I'm gonna finish my thought. If we could purify ocean water and drink it, we would have limitless water.
Well, no. It wouldn't be limitless because then we would get greedy and use it, and then the wildlife would be gone and we'd mess
The
up the
ocean
ecosystem.
is so big. There's like more water in the ocean. There's more water in the ocean than anyone could ever drink.
There's water in the ocean.
Yes. All right. We're off. All right.
We got to go
Anyway.
back. We got to go back.
Love Wesley so much.
Yeah, he's great.
Love him so much. All right.
Wait,
move
before we
on.
move on,
Yeah.
the only thing I couldn't get past,
Okay.
and if you think about it, I bet you can guess.
It's when
What
he
I-
almost slapped Buttercup.
Well, I didn't really like that either, but I'm talking aesthetically.
The mustache. Yeah, the little mustache.
Yeah. I didn't love that. And I stared at it a long time
Oh my god.
this time around.
All right, well, don't do that. The whole slapping thing, it's crazy. I think that at that point, he's still trying to play up that he's like a big evil guy.
Yeah.
And I don't think he really was going to slap her. I'm making excuses for him, clearly.
Yeah.
But I think he's like trying to test her to get like the truth out of her. Like, do you love Humperdinck? Do you not love Humperdinck? You know what I mean? Like, am I saving you or should I return you to Humperdinck if you guys actually love each other?
Yeah, it was a test of true love. I mean, the whole roll down the hill that was odd. That was just for comedic purposes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As you
Yeah.
went.
Yeah. What I like about this movie, and I've thought long and hard about why I like this movie so much. And the reason is this is a comedy, right? But it's not so far from reality that everyone feels like fake people. So if you took Fezzik and put him into like Braveheart, he fits. He can be in other stories. If you take any of these people and put them into other stories, it still works because even though this is comedic and even though there's little asides and jokes and they're playing a little bit with the like fantasy fairy tale thing, it's not going so far like in Shrek where they go into town and it's like ye old Starbucks.
I'm glad you used Shrek. Proud of you.
Oh my gosh.
Out of all the movies, you used Shrek, y'all.
I'm just saying, like, Shrek does that. Robin Hood Men in Tights does that. Where, like, they're like, hey, look, we're in medieval times. No one ever says or does anything like that because they actually are in medieval times. Like, those characters live in that world, and that world feels super real.
Yeah. So
the sword fighting, there's humor in it, but they're actually sword fighting. You know, they're actually, So Wallace Shawn as Vizzini.
Isn't it so hard to see him evil? I love him so much, but like my favorite roles of him are just like sweet, sweet morsel of a human.
Right.
And so to see him being like conniving and evil, it's very funny, but it's just different.
Yeah, I mean, he's what's his name from Clueless?
Yeah, he's the teacher,
Yeah.
Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hall.
And then he played Cyrus in Gossip Girl, which is like the best character ever.
He's in Gossip Girl?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think growing up watching him here, I think that this might be who I think of when I think of Wallace Shawn, honestly.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, you grew up with this movie. I think of Clueless because I grew up with that. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And like, he's not in this movie for very long.
No.
But he's one of the best parts. I mean, I don't know. That's what I think. What do you think?
No, I agree with you. And thinking about this movie, I always think about him.
Yeah.
Even though he's in it for a short period of time.
When he went to audition, apparently he like stuck his head in the door and was like, "Oh, there's a lot of people here already. You don't need me."
Oh my gosh.
And like all the whole way, even into filming, Rob Reiner said he was like, he thought he was like going to get fired and he thought that he was messing up. He apparently had worked on like a Sicilian accent and just like couldn't do it. And so Rob Reiner said to him, he's like, "Hey, you know what? This Sicilian has an American accent. There you go." And until I heard that, I never, of all the times watching this movie, I've never thought, how come he doesn't sound Sicilian?
Yeah. Well, as a kid, would you really pick up on that? You know?
No, I was just like, all right, Sicilian. That's like a heritage. He doesn't have to talk like that.
Yeah, I don't think I even picked up that he was supposed to be
No.
Sicilian.
No.
Inconceivable. Inconceivable.
Right. It's
I love when Inigo's like, I don't think you're using that right. I was like, wow, it's the story of my life. How I will just use words that are just not right for the circumstance.
I love his delivery of, "It's too late. See? The cliffs of insanity." Everything with him is like so...
Yeah, exaggerated.
He's so extra. Even like his tunic thing.
Oh yeah.
What is that shirt? What is that?
It's like ruffly, right?
It's rough. Yeah. I mean, honestly, and not to get you too excited again, but the closest thing I can think of is like what Princess Fiona wears. Right? Like it looks like he stole from Princess Fiona and like just put it on and it doesn't really fit. And it kind of like ripped at the chest a little bit, but.
Absolutely. Vizzini.
What did you think about his whole poison switcher, like logical?
Yeah. I'm like following, not following. Like your brain is like playing ping pong. You know, you're following, you're like, oh, this is good. He's got it. And he did. It's just, Wesley one-upped him.
There were two scenes in this movie that reminded me of You and Me.
Uh-huh.
One is when Fezzik and Inigo are on the boat and they won't stop rhyming.
Uh-huh.
Just because I think you and I can get in a loop where we're doing a bit. And then the other scene was this scene right here, which is me as Vizzini, like overexcited, explaining something, and I have no idea what I'm actually talking about.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there like, oh, okay.
You're just waiting for you to end.
Right, waiting for me to finish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
sure. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're stalling. And I'm like, not even, no, wait till I get going.
It's very accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I wonder if Michelle is watching this scene. Like, where have I seen a short,
this
bald
feels
dude?
Like super familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. Being like, okay, before we get to it, let me talk for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And I just sit there and I'm like, yeah, he'll tire himself out.
So I want to talk about Fezzik.
Yeah.
Andre Roussimoff, more widely known as Andre the Giant.
How do you know? So besides this, have you seen Andre in other things?
Wrestling.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. My family was into wrestling growing up. When I was a kid, wrestling entered what's known as the Attitude Era, which is when we kind of stopped watching.
Oh, this is like a term in wrestling?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what your household called it. Like you
No,
guys got
no.
attitudes, and so your mom was like, "Nope."
So we knew him, just from wrestling and then from this. But yeah, how did you feel about him in this, watching it this time?
Oh, I love him in this, but I kind of went down a wormhole that left me nowhere because
Okay.
I thought I've seen him in other things. And when I was looking at his filmography, I was like, maybe I actually haven't. And I
Yeah.
was thinking about, and I think maybe I confused him. Wasn't there a movie about like me and the giant, or my friend and I, my giant friend and I?
Yes. So Billy Crystal made a movie called My Giant.
It was scripted, not a
Yep.
documentary.
Yep.
Okay. And Andre was in that?
No, it was after he passed away.
That's the one I'm thinking of. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense. That's why I was confused.
In the commentary track that I was listening to, Billy Crystal was talking about Andre the Giant, and he said, he was like, I was partially inspired to make My Giant after
Got it.
like this experience with working with him. But yeah, I can't express to you how much he makes me cry in this movie.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Why are we going to elaborate? Like, here's a time where I
Sure.
want
I
you to
mean, yeah.
elaborate,
So
and you're just holding back on me.
no. So Andre Roussimoff was massive wrestler. Wrestlers are usually like 6'7", 6'8", incredibly strong and fit and massive. And then here comes this dude who towers over like the tallest wrestler. And so visually, it's like the most amazing thing you've ever seen. It's like watching a real giant like wrestling. It's pretty amazing. But in his personal life, because of his condition, he was in a lot of pain like all the time. His body like never stopped growing. And so your body isn't meant to do that. You're supposed to stop. He weighed over 500 pounds. And so just walking around was very difficult and like taxing on him. And he was performing. So you have to be very physical. And when he made this movie, he was in a lot of pain. He had a lot of difficulty doing anything. Like a lot of the behind the scenes facts that are like most known about this have to do with like how, for example, when he catches Buttercup at the end, they had to have her on wires because he couldn't hold her, which is crazy to think.
Right.
Andre the Giant couldn't pick up Robin Wright.
Right.
So they met him in a hotel to do like a read through with him. And Rob Reiner already knew that they wanted Andre the Giant. And he was like a hard guy to get a hold of. And so they had tried out other people and they had other people read. And he was like, it had to be believable with his size, but he also had to be able to act, right? And a lot of wrestling is acting. And so they were like, yeah, this will be the dude. So they had him come in, and he's French, so he doesn't really read English. So he had a lot of trouble reading the script, but they like worked through some of the lines with him, whatever. And they were like, okay, so, you need to be on location for like 15 weeks. Can you do it? And he thought that like just the one scene that they had gone over with him, he was like, so I'm going to be doing this for like 15 weeks. And they're like, no, you're in the whole movie. Like you're going to be a star of the movie. And so he's like, yeah, sounds good. And Reiner said like, it's customary when you meet with somebody, you tell them like, okay, we'll let you know. You don't like hire them right there on the spot. And Andre was leaving the room, and he turned around and said to them, I hope you pick me.
No.
And then walked out.
Oh, man.
Isn't that like the nicest thing you've ever heard?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was, from everyone who I've ever heard talk about him, they all say like he was incredibly strong, huge, in pain, but he was also like the nicest person. And he always gave a lot of respect to everybody and, worked hard so that he could learn his lines and do his marks. But physically, he just couldn't do a lot of the stuff. Like they commented and said when he goes down to pick up the boulder, he has to like brace himself because he like literally couldn't like bend over. So a lot of the scene with him and Wesley, they had to shoot it real close up.
Yeah.
They had fake hands that someone was wearing on the close-ups of like the hands around his neck. A lot of the scenes where it looks like he's holding him, he's actually being supported by other people. Yeah, so it was a lot, but it's such a great performance and such a great role.
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a documentary about Andre called Andre the Giant, and I watched it a few years back, and I was kind of like, it was like a late night. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to put this on. This is going to be so awesome. Yeah, Andre the Giant documentary. And I just cried for like an hour, because it's just so sad. Like he could drink 12 bottles of wine and 3 bottles of brandy in one meal. He could drink 150 beers at a time, which sounds insane. It sounds crazy. But he would drink regularly, like on set all the time, and he wouldn't get drunk, but it would just kind of help like numb a little bit. So it's all very fantastical. And then when you hear him talk about like, I wish, for just like one day I could be like a normal person and like not have people stare at me. When Chris Sarandon's kids came to set, they saw Andre the Giant and like ran away screaming.
Yeah.
Because he was so, physically imposing.
Yeah.
And Chris Sarandon like apologized. He was like, I'm really sorry. And Andre was like, no, that's what happens. Like so it's, we look at him, we're like, wow, cool. And then you look into like the reality of what his life was just day to day. And it's very, very sad. Very, very sad.
Wow.
Yeah. And so in this film, like knowing all of that and also just like loving this character so much, like when he's, does anybody want a peanut? And even later when Wesley's like, if only we had a Holocaust cloak, and he just pulls it out and he's like, yeah, I was at Miracle Max's and he said it fits so nice, I should just keep it.
Aww.
It's I love every line that he has, and that's very rare. It's very rare in a movie to have a character where every single thing that they say, you're just like, this is amazing.
I mean, that's how I felt about Miracle Max. Like from start to finish, and it's a small amount of time that we're with
very small amount of time.
Him and his wife, but like start to finish, I'm like, give me more. I can't stop laughing.
I want to talk about Miracle Max and what is his wife's name?
Valerie.
I want to talk about them, but quickly I want to ask you about the pacing of this movie and how you felt.
What a great question, Seth. What a great question.
Okay.
So, obviously I saw this when I was a kid, like I said, but I didn't remember too much. And then I watched it with friends, 8 years ago or so. And this time around, I was like, to me, it drags a little bit.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm like a broken record. And I'm not just saying that because Michelle doesn't want to watch movies, because I do like this movie, but it feels like it drags a little bit. And I feel like when we get to like, when we're finally like storming the castle before the marriage, like that, when we're like from Miracle Max, it starts to pick up again for me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So it's like we hit like where I'm super into it, and then we like hit a lull, and then like, the torture scenes, like I get it, but I'm like, okay, probably could have skipped one of them.
I feel like everything is so short.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I watched this movie and it's got to be, I don't know, man, in the 30s or 40s of times that I've seen this movie, you know? Like, this is easily one of my most rewatched movies ever. And yeah.
This is a favorite of yours.
Well,
Can't believe I asked that. And this is the answer. Whatever.
you should
Okay.
just start calling me Vizzini.
Yeah, exactly.
You fell victim to one of the famous movie blunders.
I've seen this 30 times and rewatched it, but it's not on my top 150.
Right. Only second to thinking that a rewatched movie is one of my favorites. Anyway. Yeah, like everything seems very short, and I couldn't believe that like an hour and 20 minutes had gone by.
Wow.
Like I felt like it feels like this movie's 30 minutes to me.
Wow.
Honestly.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't read that way for me, but.
So Miracle Max and Valerie, Billy Crystal, and
Carol Kane, who's so funny. And you watched Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
yes.
So it she's obviously done other things in between, but that's like the most recent role I think I've seen her in.
She's unreal in that show.
I know.
Like, I know people are kind of iffy on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, but you can watch it just for Carol Kane, and it's like,
yeah,
she's one of the best.
Oh my God. I know. I think all the characters in that show are pretty great, but I'm also a very big fan of that show. But I also know it's not everybody's comedy style. Right.
Yeah, I think that Princess Bride looks great, and if you wanted to find like maybe the part that's like, oh, I'm not so sure about this, it would be Miracle Max and Valerie's makeup. What do you?
Yeah, I know.
Too harsh?
No. You're right. But again, I'm in a fairy tale world. We're not using like special effects. This works for me. This is like right on par for the whole look of the movie. And again, it doesn't look like Billy Crystal. You hear Billy Crystal, but it does not look like Billy Crystal at all. I don't see Billy Crystal.
He said that he modeled this after, I think, one of the Yankees' former owners or general managers and his grandmother. Like, he gave photos of those two faces to the prosthetics person, and that's what they made. He's like, I want to look like my grandmother.
I love it. I mean, oh my gosh, the whole time. I'm like, give me more. Give me more of these two.
I'm curious if you feel the same way as I do about this part. The magic chocolate thing. Yeah. I want to eat that so bad.
It's on the list. It's on the list of things I want from movies. Yeah, it looks like the most delectable truffle.
And like the way, like when they put it in his mouth and you hear like kind of like a snappy, I'm just like, I feel like I can picture what it tastes like, what it feels like.
Yeah, it's on the list.
Hey, that's a good, jot that down in your Halloween notes for a Halloween party snack. Miracle Max's.
Nobody will know that.
Sure. Put a picture of Billy Crystal and Carol Kane.
Next Halloween party will be Princess Bride themed.
Yeah, and then you can put a sign that says, don't swim for an hour. A good hour.
I just like when he's like, I've seen worse. It's just so nonchalant. I mean, yeah.
They are, I think, the most kind of winky, hey, we're outside of this story part a little bit. Yeah. But I will allow it because it's so funny.
You need that like quirky troll-like character that's in a fairy tale story. They fit.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we don't have
folklore,
dragons
they're
in
like
this.
Folklore. Right.
We don't have... Rob Reiner said to Billy Crystal, he was like, you're going to play like this old 100-year-old troll. And yeah, like I've always wondered, like, are they supposed to be like witches? Are they elves? Are they woodland humans? Like, it's not super clear.
Right. And they're just like, if it works, it works. And they also have like that New York old, it's great. It's so
Right.
great.
And like Miracle Max is upset because Humperdinck fired him.
Yeah.
Can you imagine them interacting?
No. And I wish we saw it. I wish we saw it.
I can imagine Humperdinck just walking in and being like, "You're fired," and like walking out. Like I can't picture those two talking. Like
No.
So speaking of Humperdinck, is
What a
Humperdinck
name.
his first name?
I was taking it that it was his last name.
Because you call people, so Prince Charles,
Right.
you call people by their
Right.
first name. Prince Caspian, Prince Charles. So this dude's first name is Humperdinck? It's
silly.
To Chris Sarandon's major credit. You take this character, his name is Humperdinck, he's a loser, all this stuff. You could play this so different than he plays it here. And he is playing it totally straight.
Yeah.
Like menacing, petty, all that stuff. And I feel like he plays it so much that you kind of forget that his name is Humperdinck.
I agree. And he's not playing it silly. And in this kind of like how villains are portrayed.
Yeah.
In what's the word that I'm searching for? Seth, fill me in.
Extra.
Right. So Humperdinck, he's not portrayed as extra.
Right.
He's not as
no,
at all.
Yeah. No, he's very kind of like close to the chest.
Yeah.
He's got his little lackey there, played by Christopher Guest, which, did you know that was Christopher Guest?
I didn't. I have to be honest with you, I didn't.
Until like this moment, did you not know that?
No, I knew it before
after
we started.
Watching?
Yes, after watching, when I like looked up the cast and was doing my notes, I was like, oh my gosh, I did not realize that was Christopher Guest.
Count Tyrone Rugen.
Yeah.
Played by Christopher Guest, who we talked about on This Is Spinal Tap.
Mm-hmm.
Playing Nigel Tufnell. And like,
what a delight that movie was.
They're actors, so we know that they play different types of characters. But are there any two characters any different than Nigel Tufnell and Count Rugen? I never knew this was Christopher Guest growing up.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know until like recent years that was Christopher Guest, because I just never looked into it. I was like, yeah, that's some guy, some character actor playing Count Rugen. And he, for being one of the funniest men on the planet, does he say anything remotely? I mean, like, the guy's sick, right? He's obsessed with pain and torture and all that stuff. So he has a few like funny lines, but none of the deliveries are funny.
No, it's not presented in a funny manner.
No.
Like
when he takes a year off of Wesley's life and he's like, now this is for posterity, so try to be clear or whatever, and Wesley just whimpers and he goes, very interesting. That's funny. Like, that's a funny response, but it doesn't feel like he's trying to be funny in that moment. I don't know. I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but like, he is a villain. Like, he's the villain part of Humperdinck,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh man. He is. Yeah. I love him in this movie though. He's great.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got 6 fingers. And somebody's looking for him.
That's right.
So, Inigo Montoya.
Is this your favorite? Is he your favorite?
No, I would say that Fezzik is my favorite.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because I just want him to be around more and talk more. And
but Inigo has such heart. He's he has so many layers to him, and we have so many characters, right, that we're meeting and we're dealing with. Even our main two, right? But we get to know Inigo, and we get to understand who he is, what he's doing, his purpose in life. I love this character.
Yeah,
Andy Patinkin.
I mean, what a choice in this movie to completely, if we say Buttercup and Wesley are 2 main characters, and then Wesley is just taken out of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like he gets knocked on the head after the fire swamp, which is like the beginning, end of Act 1, and then he's tortured or dead for all through Miracle Max. Like he's not really around until boom, the end, like the final siege, like seizing of the castle. And what a crazy idea. But we're kind of left with Inigo, kind of like taking the reins a little bit.
Right.
And he's great. He's funny, but so much of his story and like what he does is not funny, like at all.
Right. And again, like the main part of this story is for Buttercup and Wesley to be reunited, and so she doesn't have to marry Humperdinck, right? But Inigo is out for revenge and gets to seek it. And so we have this whole other storyline that we're very much invested in. I mean, I was very invested in his story.
Absolutely. When he tells the story, my father was commissioned to make a sword. He makes the sword. The guy comes back and won't pay him what he was supposed to pay. It's the most beautiful sword ever made. And so he kills him. And he's 11 years old. I was watching this with my son who's 11. And when he said, I was 11 years old and I lost the duel, my son was like, I'm 11. And he's like, oh, hopefully nobody comes and kills you and I have to fight them.
Job, I love it.
But that helped put it into context for me, because then I'm looking down the couch at Job and I'm like, oh yeah, you're only 11. Like that's...
Well, then that becomes your life mission, and you just train in fencing and become the best of the best, and you search for the man with 6 fingers.
Right. It's just such a great... The man with 6 fingers, like just that sentence, you know what I mean?
He even, when him and Wesley, when he first meets him, he's like, I have to kill you, but by any chance, do you have 6 fingers? I mean, this would be, what a great, like, 1-2 punch,
Right. Yeah, it's such a cool little personal side quest in the midst of the whole movie, and that it pays off in the way that it does.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. So when Rugen, he doesn't play fair, right? When we meet Inigo and Wesley's climbing up the ropes, he throws him down the rope. He gives him his word. He says, you'll reach the top alive. And then he gives him time to breathe. Rugen doesn't do that. He waits till he runs around a corner and like throws a knife into him.
Mm-hmm.
When Inigo lifts his sword to deflect it and he can like barely move, I just start crying.
Oh my God, Seth, you're crying so much.
I'm crying a lot throughout this movie. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was not crying. I'm just like, you go, Inigo Montoya. My name is Inigo Montoya, right? I'm like, how are you still going? Like, we are holding our wound.
And it's so like over quoted. This movie is so over quoted. Like it's so, But when he starts the whole, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepared it, and he just says it. And every time he says it, he gets stronger and stronger and stronger until he's like yelling at him. And then he overtakes him and then he cuts his cheeks. Mm-hmm. It's like, I said, I put in my notes as I watched it, I said, is this the best scene in any movie ever?
Wow.
Which obviously, like, who can say that? But really, like, think about, like, everything going into that scene and then the way that it plays out. It's like, it's incredible.
Pretty great. It's pretty great.
And he's like, offer me everything.
Yeah.
And the one thing he wants, he can't have. And so it's still, you're like joyous and glad and Rugen is dead, but it's still good writing in that it's like, no, it's still revenge. And it's still,
it doesn't bring back your father.
No, it's empty. Like everything that you just saw, it's empty. And it's like, oh my God.
We don't have a purpose anymore. What is the purpose? You become a pirate. That's when you become a pirate.
Yeah, that's everyone's go-to. It's like, I lost Buttercup, I'll become a pirate.
Mm-hmm. We do have to talk about marriage.
Yeah, yes. I love this scene so much. This actor, the way that the scene kind of comes in, it's all very serious. The actor looks like, a serious dude. He's pulling off the whole priest thing well. And then
Impressive clergyman is his title.
Right. Which
Impressive clergyman. And so growing up, this was the most quoted scene that I know. Marriage.
Yeah,
I mean, that to me is this movie.
William Goldman based this off of a rabbi in his hometown who was apparently like a very famous rabbi. I think he said he was like in Chicago. So much so that when this movie came out, locals berated William Goldman and they were like, how could you do that to Rabbi so-and-so?
Oh no.
Because they just knew that that's who he was supposed to be.
Oh no.
But I love this character because, as we've said many times this episode, he's not, doing a funny look. He's not. This is just how this guy talks. And when Humperdinck is like rushing him and he's like, say man and wife, he just kind of goes, man and wife. Like he's like, what's happening here? Like, like, oh,
he felt like a Monty Python character.
Yeah, it's
very funny.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. A scene that always freaked me out was the booing lady during Buttercup's dream.
Boo! I know. She's so invasive.
Bow to her. Bow down. The queen of putrescence, I think, is one of the things she says.
Yeah.
Like, my goodness. So did you have a favorite scene? I know we already talked about the duel, kind of. Yeah,
definitely the duel, but the whole scene with Miracle Max.
Yeah.
And when Valerie comes out, liar! Like, it's just so perfect. You're like, who is this, shrieking woman?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene.
I like everything leading up to the fire swamp. Not that I don't like the fire swamp. I think that that's fine. That's good. Big old rats and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I love just the series of Wesley like overcoming all of the challenges. Like first he's like trailing them, and then he's climbing up the rope, and then he's gaining on them, and then like every little thing. I like that whole part where he's just kind of like beating them all one by one in their various ways.
The journey. You like the journey.
Yeah. It's good. It's great. How did you feel about Fred Savage not liking the kissing parts?
I mean, it's so fitting for a young boy. He wants to hear like the action and the fighting and the adventure part.
Yeah.
Plus, like, he doesn't know these people yet, so why should he care about kissing? Right. I mean, I think it's awkward when you're a kid. You don't want to hear the kissing until the end, or it's like, oh, well, maybe now that I know them and they're together. And I like his grandfather's response of, one day you might not want to skip this part.
Right. I love his delivery of, is this a kissing book?
I know. Like, Fred Savage is such a good kid actor.
Yeah,
he great. Does a lot with his eyes, the eyebrows, his like the whole face is acting without actually like doing much. God, he's so good.
Have you seen him in The Wizard?
I have not. The Wizard.
That might be a movie that comes back around for Seth month.
The Wizard.
Do you know Jenny Lewis, the musician?
Yeah, of course.
She stars in it as well when she was a kid doing kid acting stuff.
I have never seen this. Bring it back, Seth. Bring it back.
It's about video games. It's pretty great.
Okay. I look forward to it.
So this movie was made for $16 to $17 million. Billy Crystal says 17 million. The internet says 16. I'm going to go with Billy Crystal.
Okay. Billy would know, I guess.
They had a really hard time marketing this movie to the right people.
Yeah.
Rob Reiner said that whenever they do test screenings with college students, it worked best. Like they got it, they loved it, but they couldn't get people, not a non-test audience. They couldn't get like teenagers to come see it, young people to come see it. He said it was all like young kids bringing their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I really appreciate about this movie is that it's pretty kid friendly.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you could watch this with just about any aged kid, and as long as you're okay with them watching a giant rat get stabbed to death,
Right.
they'll be okay.
It's a giant rat. It doesn't look real, but it works for the fairy tale. Yeah.
So the movie made $30.9 million. Makes its money, but it's not like a smash hit.
Yeah.
This currently has 96 on Rotten Tomatoes, 4 on Letterboxd, 78 on Metacritic. What's going on, Metacritic?
Wow.
All you critics out there. Yeah. This does have a Criterion release. This was inducted into the National Film Registry in 2016.
Okay.
Roger Ebert gave this 3.5 stars.
Okay.
And on the show, the Siskel and Ebert show, they loved it.
Why 3.5?
3.5 out of 4. So it's...
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
So we have a segment of the show where we talk about what we would cut, what we would edit, and what we would keep. It's called What the Keck. And I'll go first. I would edit down a little bit of the fire swamp. Just a little bit. Cary Elwes did the stunt where he dives into the tank of sand, and they really didn't want him to do it because it's extremely dangerous, but they did it anyway. The first day of filming was in the fire swamp, and they set Robin Wright, her dress on fire.
Oh my God.
William Goldman said, he was like, I wrote the book. In the book, her dress sets on fire. I wrote all the screenplays, and every version of that, her dress sets on fire. He says, we're there. They set her dress on fire, and I screamed and said, her dress is on fire! And I ruined the take.
That's great. That's great.
He was like, I was so caught up in the movie magic of it that I was afraid for her.
Oh my God. That's great. It's a good story.
So yeah, I would cut down like a tad bit in the fire swamp. For cutting, I'm cutting nothing. And for keeping, I'm keeping everything with Andre and maybe adding more.
Okay.
That would be my one request would be Andre needs to be in every scene in this movie.
Wow, that's a lot of work for Andre. Think about how he would feel. Right.
I know. I feel bad.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not really sure what scene I want to cut completely.
Yeah.
But I do want to actually edit in like one more insert of grandson and grandfather.
Sure.
Because I feel like we get it, and then there's a long time where we don't get that anymore.
Yeah.
So I would have liked one more insert. And then I'm keeping the entire duel between Wesley and Ego. Like, I'm not touching that. That's like perfect.
Perfect, right.
Yeah. But there's nothing in particular that I'm cutting. I might trim, but nothing in particular. Yeah.
We asked some friends on Twitter what they thought. Cosmo at Oi Hey You. Great friend and patron Cosmo.
Yeah.
She says the Princess Mid. Cosmo, what's up with that? What's going on?
Meh.
Paul Muad'Dib at Trigraptor.
Dune Buggy.
He says, one of those films that I always wanted to watch as a kid, but was often too scary to handle. Rodents of an Unusual Size, Six-Fingered Men, and The Life Sucker. Looking forward to revisiting this as an adult for this episode.
I'm very curious to see and hear how you feel afterwards.
Me too. Jekyll Jamila. I don't know what's up with the Jekyll part.
I love it. It's like Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah. At Jamila Brownie. She says, I think I told you this before, but I think Clifford, the great Martin Short film, Clifford, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, folks. I think Clifford satirizes the whole framing device of the wizened old man retelling a story to a savage brother. And that's true.
Oh,
Clifford opens up with Martin Short
whoa.
telling a story in old age makeup to Fred Savage, Ben Savage's younger brother.
Older brother. Fred is older.
Oh, Ben Savage then. He's
Yeah.
talking to Ben Savage, the younger one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And much like Princess Bride, it kind of cuts in and out
Yes.
multiple times during the telling of the story.
Wow. Jamila just won some star points to throw Clifford in there for you.
Bing, bing, bing. Those were the star points coming your way. Felicia at Cinemaroni.
Hey.
She's the host of the Seeing Faces in Movies podcast, which you should check out if you haven't yet already. She says, Mandy Patinkin may be the hottest in this, but I could make a pretty solid case for Wallace Shawn being up there on that hot list too, and I stand by that statement.
Oh my gosh, Felicia. I love it so much.
I don't...
Wow,
I
wow, wow,
just...
wow, wow, wow. Hot take.
Hottie hot take? Maybe that's what we should start calling Felicia's comments.
Well, when she gives like her thirst level for the
Mhm.
movies we cover, it needs to be a segment. Like Felicia needs a hot take, a hot something on here. I love it.
We could call it the sizzle reel.
Oh, cute. I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Felicia, start sending us in little voicemails.
Please. I very
Felicia's
much enjoy.
sitting in her kitchen right now, like, God,
Oh,
no.
no.
Why?
Why did I do that?
The people want it. Anyway. Les Incompetents at Caleb the Hairy.
Do we know this person?
Yeah, they've responded before. Well, I think it's Les Incompetent, right? You're not supposed to pronounce the
like
S
from
in
Home
France.
Alone.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You're what the French say.
This is a great little thing here. They say, weirdly enough, this movie is a staple in Mennonite culture. Basically, every Mennonite I know has seen it, and it's viewed as a landmark of family-friendly action comedy. They think it's the perfect movie. I've been to like 9 weddings that had done the marriage is what brings us together shtick. I think part of it is that so many movies that are good are way too violent and sexual for Mennonites, and this movie scratches every itch without being too obscene.
Wow. I feel like I need to digest that a little bit longer. So
yes. Caleb the Hairy, are you Mennonite yourself? Because you've gone to 9 Mennonite weddings, so I'm just curious.
Caleb the Hairy?
Yeah.
Like Hairy?
Yeah. Hey, you got to be known for something, right?
That's right. Okay, Caleb. I see you.
Ra! Exclamation point. R-A-H. At Rashan Jamal. So on my personal Twitter, I said I wanted to hear from people who maybe don't like this movie because I feel like this is a pretty generally well-loved movie, and I knew that I was going to come in hot on the loving it train. So Ra says,
oh, yes.
Oh, that's me, known contrarian, laughing emoji. I never watched it as a kid, so I had no nostalgia for it. I sat there watching stone-faced. I found like one thing funny, but mostly the tone just annoyed me.
Oh my God, it's like me how I felt with the producers.
Ooh, interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every rom-com at every rom-com pod says, how about I think it's overrated, and the main reason I think that is that there are like 2 women in the whole movie, and the main woman is mostly helpless throughout. Yeah. It's funny and well acted and a good enough movie, but even as a kid, I never felt it was made for me.
It's a good viewpoint.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I would say is like I've never seen Buttercup as like helpless, like fully helpless.
Same.
Yeah. But as I also said earlier, I think that that's a pretty valid criticism that you can throw at this movie.
Yeah, she needs to be rescued.
Yeah. So there's some people that we do know, and we go to a segment of the show where we hear from people that we don't know. It's called Half Star, 3 Star, 5 Star. All right, these are reviews from letterboxd.com, which is a website where you can log, rate, and review movies. We start with a half-star review, which is the lowest rating that you can give a film, and we go all the way up to a 5-star rating, which is the highest rating that you can give a film. And for the half-star review, what do you think I should do?
What are you feeling?
I think if I go British, I could try to do like a Wesley, or I could try to do Vizzini, Wallace Shawn.
Do Vizzini.
Okay. I think this movie is my most hated for obvious reasons. The plot is boring. The prince is not hot. The acting is terrible. The story is so cliche. Buttercup, also, what kind of name is that? Annoys me so much. The only good part of this movie was the fencing duel.
That was good. Your fencing was really good when you said fencing. That was truly channeling. That was really good, Seth.
The prince is not hot. I don't know.
Yeah, I beg to differ.
Who we're throwing that? Are we throwing that at Humperdinck?
No, well, maybe actually. Maybe.
I mean, I wouldn't say he's hot, but he's just a guy.
Yeah, and he's not the one we're fawning over, you know?
Yeah. Maybe this person didn't really pay attention to the movie.
Maybe. They didn't really, yeah.
3-star review says, this is like the perfect movie to show to someone who has never seen a movie before. It's got just enough action, romance, comedy, drama to sort of suggest what elements could go into a story. Not a dig at all, though, because there's no denying that it is a very enjoyable, if mild, ride.
I agree, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got like every little element of everything.
Yeah, it's a movie for everyone, I think. Yeah. There's a lot going on.
5-star review says, since the invention of film, there have only been 5 movies that were rated the most passionate, the most pure. This one left them all behind.
Wow.
Isn't that a great review?
Okay. Wow.
Okay. I mean, I didn't think it was that great, but okay.
Well, I'm just like, what are the other 5 movies?
That's the line from the end of the book.
Oh, duh.
Of the kiss. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Now you think it's a better review.
Now I think it's a really good review.
Yeah.
I took it too serious.
Mm-hmm. So, Michelle has a rating system, which is a movie, a schmovie, and a film. We rate the movie 1 through 5 stars, and we give our recommendations and final thoughts. Michelle, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You can go first. Do you want me to give what I thought you're rating this?
Yes.
Okay. I wrote down a 4.
Oh, okay.
And I think you're rating... What?
No, I'm just... Okay. I think so far, haven't you guessed all of mine correctly so far?
I have.
Yeah.
I think it's
not
a 4.
This time.
It's a 4 movie.
This is the great in-between of a film and a schmovie, because it is just weird enough to be an interesting mainstream popcorn adventure flick. Like thinking about where we just came from with Raiders of the Lost Ark to this, doesn't this feel like this was made by weirder people than Raiders?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Stranger
Raiders
Sensibilities
feels
and
blockbuster and just, you know.
Yeah. This feels like a bunch of people being like, hey, this is weird and funny.
Right.
And this is 5 stars.
Wow.
Not only is this 5 stars, I don't know that I've done this yet on this show, and I only have very few of these movies. I am ready to say that The Princess Bride is a perfect film.
And this is on your top 150. If it is
Absolutely.
Not. Okay.
This is in my top 150. This is maybe in my top 10 films of all time. I think that this is a perfect film. I think that you can look at a few things and be like, oh, that was weird when he almost slapped her. Or, oh, their age-old troll makeup looks not super great. Or, oh, there's different things that you can look at. I don't care. This is a perfect movie. This is what movies are made for. This movie makes me cry multiple times. It makes me feel like life is worth living. It makes me feel like I need to be a good grandfather one day. You know what I mean? A good father today. Everything.
Wow.
It's a perfect movie.
Okay.
All right.
What do you got for me, Seth? What do you got?
So I wrote down that you were going to rate this 4 stars.
Okay. I am rating this. Oh, what category?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't put that. I would probably say a movie. You would say a
Okay.
movie.
Okay. This is a movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I am rating it 3.8.
Ooh.
Just
I'm never
below-
going to get that 0.8, by the way.
Yeah, I know. No one is.
Yeah.
Just because it's a gut feeling of, to me, this isn't quite a 4-star.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with it. I don't have the connection with it. While I did see it like once when I was a kid and then revisit it as an adult, I think the nostalgia factor for me is not there.
Got it.
I very much do enjoy watching this. It drags a little bit for me. And I would be okay if I don't watch it for a little while.
Got it.
However, I would definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's a fun movie and you can watch it with almost anybody. And I think almost anyone would really enjoy it. They would get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
If not for the story, just seeing who's in it.
Sure. A lot of people before they were really famous.
Right. Which is fun in a way.
Yeah. I'm curious, people watching it now, the grandfather-grandson thing, if that takes them out of it. That this
really?
is a story.
Because I think that's the heart of it.
I agree, but I'm wondering people just coming to it. You know what I mean? Like, because when you tell people to care about characters, but then you also say it's just a story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then people might be like, well, then why do I care?
Right.
But you care because you're the one doing the caring, not the people experiencing the care. Anyway.
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right. Wow. Cool. We did it. Princess Bride. I can't believe it took a year to talk about this movie.
You could have worked it in some way.
Hey, if you want to work it in to your daily podcast listening, you should subscribe to the show. You could also give us a rating and a review. That'd be super, super sick. Hey, we got a review, right, Michelle?
We got a review. Can I read it? Because I'm really excited.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very informative, but lighthearted. 5 stars. From Dreen_YoQueen. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. Okay. It says, I like how Seth gives details about movies, including the director's intentions for including certain details in a film. The dynamic between him and Michelle is enjoyable. Particularly Michelle jokingly pleading with listeners to leave a review. Check it out.
That's awesome.
It worked. I got one.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your review. And if you want to be like Dreen_YoQueen, leave us a review, please.
Yeah. Do you hear how happy Michelle sounds?
I mean, I'm elated, y'all. Like, my eyes are bugging out of my head.
Yeah, well.
Right, Seth? Look at them. Look how wide they are. I am emoting.
There you go. A little bit, yeah. Hey, if you want to make her that happy, drop a review. You can hear this all over again.
Don't do it for Seth because he is monotoned.
That's right. We'd also love it if you'd send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you're watching. Let us know what you think we're going to cover next. What are you eating over there? You know? What are you eating under there?
Under there?
Yeah, what are you eating under there?
Under there.
No, what are you eating under there?
No, don't set me up. I'm not falling for the joke.
Do you know that joke?
Of course I know the joke. I knew the joke.
I don't know.
We're trying to joke each other out.
I made the joke. You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. $5 a month gets you access to all of our additional shows and our Patreon Discord. And most importantly, maybe, I don't know, you get to vote, suggest movies, vote on movies that we're doing each month. You get to suggest and vote on monthly themes. We just left Mystery Month. That was, hey.
That was
that wasn't
17
our
years
idea.
ago. What are you talking about?
Right?
It was so long ago.
Next week, we are continuing on with adventure movies, and it's Michelle's pick. Michelle, what do you got?
I struggled with this because I had so many ideas.
Yes.
So
that's how I feel all the time.
Well, we're going to stay in the 80s.
Okay.
So we're going to do 1989's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Wow.
Streaming on Disney Plus. And this is quite an adventure that I have not revisited in a very long time, but I fondly remember and love.
Okay. All right. Joe Johnston, director.
Didn't he do visual effects on Indiana Jones?
I don't know that I've seen this in a really long time. So I'm very curious to revisit this. Man, this is turning into 80s action adventure.
I know. And it really, that's why I struggled with this, because my other choice was not from the 80s. And then there was like one that I felt like we probably should do, but sometimes you don't want to do the shoulds and you just want to do the wants.
Sure.
So I was a little selfish with this one. I'm going to be honest with you.
Your picks are your picks, man.
I guess. I mean, the patrons still have to pick, so.
That's right. 1989, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, directed by Joe Johnston. The great Rick Moranis.
I mean, how have we not talked about him yet? Yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 big ones there.
Yeah.
All right, well, won't be avoiding him anymore after next week. I remember like an ant.
Yes, the big ant. Oh my God, I can't. Yeah. And you know what? I attended Honey, I Shrunk the Kids show at Disney, so it all goes back to the theme park.
Makes sense. All right, well, hey, very exciting. All right, well, hey, thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Seth. Thank
you guys for listening. Till next week when we're talking about Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Thank you for listening. Have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks.